Sarah Michelle Gellar comes out with the claim that female-led Marvel movies get so much criticism because people only want male heroes. It's misogyny, apparently, which is incredibly rich coming from an actress who led an action series that was successful enough for 7 seasons. So, maybe people are okay with and actually quite like and enjoy female-led action properties if, get this, they're good. Oh, what a concept. Let's go ahead and dive into the video. This comes to us from Bounding Into Comics right here. Sarah Michelle Gellar claims female-led Marvel films face heavy criticism because audiences only want male superheroes. It's a very backwards way of thinking, she says. The delusion, you guys, the pure delusion. Do you just see behind me Cara Dune from Mandalorian, who freaking people were so bummed to see her go? The people who claim to be feminist are the ones that got rid of her, right? Lara Croft right here. Let's not even get started on that, because we all know how much of a massive success that Tomb Raider was and has been. So let's not to mention tons of others. I could go all day, okay? All right. I know Jennifer Lawrence paved the way for women since she is the only woman, apparently, but still. All right. In the latest instance of a celebrity blaming fans for the failings of a multi-million-dollar entertainment franchise rather than giving even the slightest consideration to the fact that the studios themselves may be responsible for their own problems, actress Sarah Michelle Gellar has claimed that the heavy criticism leveled at female-led Marvel projects stems not from issues with their quality, but rather audiences' own ability to accept non-male superheroes. That is just so insanely absurd. Is she trying to get a Marvel contract? Is that what she's going for? Simping for Marvel? I don't know. Maybe it'll work for her. But dude, let's just unpack everything when you think of female-led Marvel properties, right? She-Hulk. What did She-Hulk do? The entire premise of that whole show was just hating on men. You think that men are going to want to support something when they're just being dragged the entire time? Really? Like, most men ain't going to want to see that. And honestly, a lot of women, if you really unpack it, the people who are supporting these movies, the people who are actually watching these movies or TV shows are predominantly men. So that is funny. But like, dude, make the movies or shows good and people will watch them. We've seen this demonstrated already with Buffy, with Tomb Raider, with Alien, with Underworld that has multiple movies as well as spin-off animated shows. People are not afraid of female leads in action movies. They're not. Just do it right and it won't be a problem. When it comes to Marvel especially, another issue is just the women that are hijacking a previous male property, right? Okay? Look at She-Thor. Look at the new Iron Man girl, Ironheart. You know? Even with Doctor Strange's movie, he had his movie hijacked pretty much by a combination of Scarlet Witch and America Chavez. It's like I'm watching Doctor Strange for Doctor Strange, right? Or what about the Black Widow movie, right? First of all, that was long overdue, okay? People loved her in Iron Man 2. She was so phenomenal in Iron Man 2, and people loved her even after that, but especially, like, oh my gosh, she was so good. Now, if they would have come out with her own movie around that time, That would have been much better, but they wait until they kill her off in Endgame, then they give us her own solo movie when she's already old news. And not only that, but the movie wasn't that stupendous or great. I enjoyed watching it, but it just wasn't nearly as good as old Marvel. And so this is in terms of MCU, but this is the problem, is that instead of letting these female lead properties stand on their own, they're just hijacking, or they're just a copy, or they're a cheap imitation of something before it. And honestly, this even applies to the comics. If you look at She-Hulk, okay, she's the female version of Hulk, right? The She-Thor, okay, she's a female version of Thor. Now, this might be blasphemy to some, because some just really adore their properties, and I can understand why they would, but still, I think what we need is more original characters. If you really want to make more female-led stuff, make more original characters and make them good. Like, just make them fun. Make them good movies or good comic books, and they'll do fine. I mean, even what we've already gotten, for them to even make it on the big screen, a lot of them have had some level of success, but the way that they are portraying a lot of these characters in the MCU has just not been good. Not at all. And it just shows that Marvel is to blame for this, and the people behind making these movies and TV shows, they're to blame for this, because they're not putting enough care and effort into these properties. They're just not. Instead, they want to piggyback off of the male characters and then expect everybody to watch it. And then when they don't, or when they don't reach the level of success that they want, or if they get some sort of criticism, then they just call the viewers bigots. That's just standard method of operation. So at one point, reflecting on her time as the titular Slayer, Gellar opened that scheduling conflicts with her role as the series lead led her to turn down a number of potential roles in films that would go on to great success, such as Fight Club or Gangs of New York. She was both proud to have made a great television show. My mom was a single mother working just above the poverty line, and I got to travel the world to see and do things that never would have been afforded to me, said the actress, before admitting that despite the temporary career burnout it caused her in recent years, from which she was just now returning, I love what I do, which is work, 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 she says. Speaking to her own career success and how it stemmed from her performances in such horror and horror adjacent hits as not only Buffy, but also I Know What You Did Last Summer, Cruel Intentions, and the live action Scooby-Doo duology, Gellar then posted that genre is where women can really succeed and hold an audience. Oh, so she's saying it's only because it was the horror genre. All right. What about all these other female lead action stuff? What about Tomb Raider, huh? Okay, turning her attention to the current kingpin of spandex tights heavy films, Gellar lamented every time a Marvel movie tries to do a female cast, it gets torn apart. Yeah, maybe because they're not doing a good job. Unfortunately, audiences weren't as accepting, claimed the actress. There's still this mentality of the male superhero. This is very backwards way of thinking. Like, good freaking grief. Seriously. This is so freaking cringe. Also, speaking of, like, look at Captain Marvel. I thought that movie was trash. I couldn't stand it. But it still was a huge success. It still did well. It should be noted that in reality, as mentioned above, the issues fans took with Marvel female-led endeavors had nothing to do with the genre of its leads, but rather the quality of their stories and cinematography. For example, the typically raised smoking gun example of fans' supposed anti-female fervor, Captain Marvel is generally accepted by its critics to be a fine, if not standard, superhero origin tale. Instead, fans were put off by the fact that not only was Marvel trying to force audiences to treat Carol Danvers with the same reverence as comic book icons as Captain America or Spider-Man, but that its lead actress responded to critics of this cynical attempt at artificial relevance by pompously writing them off as bigots. Also, dude, she was so insufferable. I think a lot of that just had to do with Brie Larson's acting too. Like, she's just not a likable actress. She's not really. And I think that played a whole role in it. I think if they would have, like, just even picturing Scarlett Johansson in this role, she would have done way better. Obviously, I don't think she should have double dipped in the Marvel Universe, but just giving an example of a likable female actress who can pull off that kick butt female lead action heroine. Even someone like Angelina Jolie, people love her in her action movies. It's all about like how you gonna pull it off, but also of course the writing and the material given as well. Then there's Black Widow, a film which most audiences had been clamoring for ever since her proper superhero debut in the first Avengers film. This outlook towards a Natasha solo adventure only soured when the film finally came to fruition and was found to be filled with backstory ruining quips. So why does Yelena treat the forced hysterectomies forced upon Red Room recruits with such levity when her sister could barely bring herself to talk about it with Bruce in Age of Ultron, and embarrassingly poor CGI? Audiences rejected the film not because it focused on women, but because after years of anticipation, what they got was perhaps the laziest and most Marvel Studios movie of the entire franchise. I 1000% agree with that. It just wasn't nearly as good as especially old school Marvel, MCU, I should say. They didn't, it just, and it was too little too late. She was already not relevant at this point. Okay. And then they go on to describe, Doctor Strange, like I mentioned earlier, and then, She-Thor. So it's like, how about they start writing actual good freaking stories, unique characters, even also it comes to me, what about Jessica Jones? That did well. This is just bull crap. It just doesn't, it's not adding up. The math ain't mathing. So anyway, there you have it for today's video. I think this is absolutely ludicrous. I don't know when people are gonna learn. Stop blaming the audience for trash material. If something isn't good, make something good. You can't guilt trip an audience into watching something. Look how that worked for G4 TV's relaunch. Okay? It doesn't happen. Make something good and people are going to watch it. Period. This applies to everything, even content creation. If my videos aren't performing well, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what can I do to make them better? What am I doing wrong? I need to reflect on this. You can't guilt trip your audience. You see streamers do this all the time too. Oh, there's only XYZ amount of female streamers in the top. And you get good. Get good. Also, just face reality of the situation is that most gamers who are going to be watching streamers are male. That's just how it is. And so a lot of them are going to prefer to watch other male streamers because whatever, they have the same humor. They relate to them or whatever it may be. But that's just how it is. It's a male-dominated films or field. Same with Marvel movies and stuff. That's pretty male-dominated. So it's only natural that the male heroes are going to do better. Not only that, but when it comes to action in general, and when it comes to like that power fantasy action hero, that is more instinctually male than female, okay? Females don't often have these like power fantasies of, beating up a bunch of bad guys or something. They're not daydreaming about saving people from a grocery store heist or something. It might happen sometimes, but I think that it's pretty obvious that men are daydreaming and vicariously living through the hero trope more than women are. And it's still cool to see women leads. Obviously, I'm a huge fan. Look, all my Tomb Raider stuff. But just saying, it's just like, think about makeup channels on YouTube or something. It's predominantly if you count the amount of influencers, predominantly women. Now, there are some men who are just really dominating and doing well in it. Just like there's Lara Croft, who especially in the 90s was just pioneering a lot of the action genre in video games, even kind of revolutionized it with Tomb Raider 1. So yeah, there are going to be some exceptions, but still, as a whole, most makeup beauty gurus are women, and likewise, most action heroes are men. It's just how it is. Exceptions are great, exceptions are fun, but you can't expect to have the same quantity of female heroes in action-led movies as male. It's just common sense, if we're being honest. But anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll catch you next time, and in the meantime, go boom.